Alright, so remember that your test is all multiple choice, so as we go over chapter 11, I'm going to let you know what are things you'll just want to watch out for. So it will say graph this, and you will have 4 choices. Okay, guys, I need you silent during this time, okay? And then when you're identifying the amplitude is always in front. Okay, so your A value is your amplitude. To find the period, if it is cosine or sine, then the period is 2 pi over b. Okay, so amplitude, your A value in front. Okay, the period is 2 pi over b. Okay, so your A is 4, your period is going to be pi here. Okay, your B value is 2. And then it says make a table with 5 key values. That's just so you can recognize these values on your choices. So if you know at 0 you are at 4, that is going to get rid of a few choice options for you. If it's cosine, remember you start at the max, you end at the max. Okay, halfway in between should be the mid. Okay? If it's sine, then that's where you start at 0, 0. And there's no phase shift for that one. Okay, what questions do you have about 45? Oh, so some of you might have had a scale that's different than mine. That is perfectly fine. I think some people went out to pi. Just be able to recognize different scales for picking the correct multiple choice one. But yeah, so if you did, because the scale will already be in your choice, but for this you could choose the scale. And then for 46, find the period. So all you have to do for these is 2 pi over b. Okay, so 2 pi over 7. I'm sure there'll be some that have like you did 2 pi over 2, then it would be negative pi. Okay, something like that, like pi would be an option. So just remember, your b value is always in front of the x. If it's x over 4, your b is 1/4. Okay, so then you multiply by the reciprocal. And for this one, it's tangent. So for tangent and cotangent, it's pi over b. Okay, this is for the tangent and the cotangent. 2 pi over b is for the sine and for the cosine. Okay, that's how you're going to differentiate the periods. Alright, 47, use the sine function to graph a sound wave. So the graphs will be done for you. You only have to do the positive side. But if it's a sine function, you know that it starts at 0, 0. So if you have something start at the amplitude, you know that that's not right. Okay, so if it's sine, it will be 0, 0. Then you will go to the max value, down to the min, okay, back to 0. Okay, so be able to recognize that the period starts and ends at 0. So we know it's 0.004 because they tell us that's the period. You know that it has to go up to 8 because that's the amplitude.
We get marked down if we need it to make the sign.
It won't be an option, like all the graphs, because you don't leave a positive sign. And then the frequency is 1 over the period. So if that's not something you remember off the top of your head, you can write that down. You will have your calculator for this, so you can do 1 divided by 0.004 to find that. Okay, and then 48, you are graphing with, again, this one is cosine. You have to find the amplitude. The amplitude is 1 because you don't see a number. The period is 2 pi because your b value is 1. The phase shift is going to be pi over 4 units to the right. So if that is on the answers, like pi over 4 units right versus pi over 4 units left, that's a quick way to eliminate some answers. Okay, so if it doesn't have it to the right place. Your x-intercept is just going to be one of the x-intercepts plus half of your period. So if the period is 2 pi, it's just pi n. Okay, so I chose the 3 pi over 4. Okay, you could have chose the negative pi over 4. You could have chose the 7 pi over 4. Any of those would be correct. Okay, know that when you see the answers on your test, when they do the x-intercepts, it's gonna be the first one that's 0 or above. Okay, so that's why I did the 3 pi over 4. Again, what you want to notice is, okay, at pi over 4, it's going to be at 1. So you want to pick out where the phase shift is, and then it starts at the max. Okay, so if it's cosine, starts at the max, ends at the max, everything is shifted over. And again, if you used a different scale, that's okay. I went by pi over 4s for every unit. Alright, and then 49 is the tangent. So the period is found by doing pi over b. So the period is pi over 2. Okay, to do the x-intercepts, remember you take the x-intercepts of tangent and multiply by the reciprocal of b. So if b is 2, you multiply each one by 1/2. So when you're graphing, you know the x-intercepts are at negative pi over 2, 0, pi over 2, and it's okay if your scale is different. I kind of spread mine out a little bit more, some of you might have gone to 2 pi. And then your equation for the x-intercepts can be any of these plus pi over 2n. Okay, the x-intercepts is always an x-intercept plus the period. So I chose 0 plus the period here. Now the asymptote equation, I would write that somewhere on my note card, the pi over 2b plus pi over bn. Okay, I would make sure that you have that down for the tangent and the cotangent so that you have the correct equation there. Yes?
Do we have to put like n outside the fraction?
For the asymptote or the x-intercept?
Well, both. You put the n outside. I put like mine.
Oh, no, like where it's like pi n over 2? Pi n over 2, like the n on top? Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yes. And I can't remember, it might be written that way on your exam, either pi over 2n or pi n over 2, it's fine. Yeah. Good, other questions for me on your graph? Those are good. Alright, and then the cotangent, very similar to the tangent, but you do have a couple of different equations. So when you're finding the period, that's the same, pi over b, which is 2 pi. Now when you're finding where the x-intercepts are, you look at the ones on the parent function. So negative pi over 2, pi over 2, and 3 pi over 2. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2. So when you multiply those by 2, you get negative pi, pi, and 3 pi. Okay, so then you just keep going every, in this case for 9 it was 4 units. Just put your x-intercepts on there. And again, when you see the x-intercept equation, it's going to be 0 or above. Okay, so it's the pi plus 2 pi n because 2 pi is the period. Okay, the asymptote equation is just pi over bn. Okay, and then so 2 pi n for the asymptotes. Okay, so in the answers, you're going to have like your equations, but you're also, or sorry, your graph, but you're also going to have these equations. So sometimes even just knowing the equations is going to eliminate some of those choices, okay? So I would definitely have on there your equations for the asymptotes.